FreeBSD reviews, tutorials and gaming.
The first piece of high-tech I received was a Binatone black and white games console. It played Pong, I think that's all it played, or at the very least variations on it, and of course I could be wrong, it was in 1980 or thereabouts, and I remember I was thrilled to bits. Moving on, roughly about 1981, I got my hands on an Atari 2600, or really as it was known then, a VCS. Now this needs no introduction, and it was a leap into the future for me. Colour, huge games library, and great joysticks, which to this day haven't been bettered. Still, no computers yet, but getting closer. I was given an Atari 2600 basic programmer's cartridge which piqued my interest, and in 1983 I received what would be my first computer, a Dragon 32. For my overseas and younger viewers, the Dragon 32 was a Tandy colour computer compatible computer designed and built in the UK with what was rare in the 1980s, a proper QWERTY keyboard with travelling keys. I amassed quite a few games for this lovely machine and enjoyed every minute of it. But time moves on, and so did the company, who sadly filed for bankruptcy and faded away, like many other companies who sold microcomputers in the 1980s did. I sold that computer and then moved up, or down, depends on your point of view, to a Sinclair ZX Spectrum Plus 2. It's an 8-bit games orientated machine that was the main rival in the UK at the time to the Commodore 64. It was good times, with so many games to choose from, but this was the last computer I used mainly for gaming, and started to want to do more with the machine that I had. In roughly around about 1992, I acquired an Amiga 600 and loved it. I could do gaming, of course, but also could delve into office applications such as desktop publishing and computer-aided design, and also experiment with programming via Amos. It was great, and I wanted more, so I bought an Amiga 1200 about a year later. And then, whoops, Commodore went bust. As I started college, I wanted more professional applications, so I bought a used Compaq ProLinear 486. I would later give this to my mum to help her learn computers, but for the moment it was mine, and I put Windows 3.11 on, a dip into Windows that would last until I found Linux. But that comes later. Using DOS and Windows 3.11 was a pain. Experiencing crashes, instability, and other little things made me choose Windows 95, which was slightly better, a different UI of course, and yet still crashed. It was during this time I tried Linux, and what a hard thing that was. Red Hat and Turbo Linux baffled me, but Mandrake was cool. I had a play with it, but missed some programs, so I went back to Windows. Then it was on to Windows 98, again a little better, but the problems remained. Crashes, coupled with the file size name limit of 8.3 characters, made me look at alternatives, and in this case OS2. First with OS2 Warp 3, and then with Warp 4. It was brilliant. Long file names and great features, but it was going nowhere. And less native software was being produced, and having to use Windows 3.11 software in OS2 wasn't an ideal solution. It wasn't until I received a copy of Windows 2000 that I was happy with what Microsoft could offer me. Windows 2000 was perfect. It was stable, and for once could support longer file names, but I was lured by Windows XP, which came out a year later. You know, the one with the Teletubby interface. But I became sick of the virus and malware infections. Having to run antivirus software just to browse the web? Nah, that's not good. Time to look at Linux again. And this time it was a better experience. And in about 2006, I went dual boot with Ubuntu 6.06, and from then until Windows 7, this was my setup for the next good few years. When Windows 7 was released in 2009, I tried it, and it was remarkably good and stable. It reminded me a lot of Windows 2000, but with a more modern user interface. But it, like Windows 95, 98, ME, Windows 2000 and XP, it was under constant attack from viruses and malware, and I'd had enough of that. I wiped the drives and just installed Ubuntu, and I haven't used Windows since. I haven't used 8, 8.1 or 10. There's no more Windows for me. I then went through many different distros, finally settling back on Ubuntu, and was happy until the dreaded introduction of Unity. Oh dear. Roughly with Ubuntu 11 or 12, I can't remember, I couldn't stand it anymore. I looked for alternatives, and that's when I saw FreeBSD. I'd heard of it, of course, but never tried it. After an initial learning curve, and many reinstalls and mistakes on my part, I finally got it burned to my memory synapse, and I've remained with FreeBSD now as my only desktop and on my servers close to 7 or 8 years. I've no intention of leaving FreeBSD or using anything else on my desktop. I don't want systemd, nor the latest fad or whim. I want control, safety and stability. FreeBSD gives me that with bells on. So that's my journey to FreeBSD. It's not remarkable, but it's a journey nonetheless, and thanks for taking the time to listen to it. And I'll catch you next time.